I'm Marty, I use they, them pronouns, and I'm going to teach you how to make blueberry muffins. First thing you're going to do is start preheating your oven to 375 degrees. Then you're going to take half a cup of softened butter, which is 1 stick, 8 tablespoons. So half a cup of softened butter, and get that right in your bowl. I'm going to use my mixer. This is a really easy recipe to do by hand too. Trying to get as much of that in as possible. A little behind the scenes fun. I was making a different recipe for a different video a little while ago and broke my rubber spatula. So, making it work. Awesome. So, half a cup of butter, and then you're going to take 1 cup of sugar. So again, 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of sugar. This is a half, so I'm going to do 2 scoops. And I'm going to not drop my eggs on the floor in the process. Yeah, so 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of sugar, and then you're going to mix that together. Again, super easy one to do by hand. I'm just going to use my mixer because it's faster. While that's going, I really like blueberry muffins. I used to make this recipe like literally all the time. I had them on deck in my house pretty much all the time because I would grab them on the way out the door for breakfast. They're super easy. I like them because they are also a nice size when they come together. You'll see later that we're going to add blueberries in 2 different ways, which makes that flavor like really concentrated throughout it, as well as having those big chunks of blueberries as well. But it's just a pretty solid recipe. I like it a lot. Pretty fond. But it's also, and you'll see, it's a pretty quick one to make too, so I like it for that reason as well, that I can like kind of make the decision to make it and then make it within like an hour tops of deciding, as long as I have blueberries. So yeah, again, 1 stick of butter, 1 cup of sugar. You're going to add 2 eggs right into that bowl. 2 eggs. I'm going to let that mix those in some more. And we've talked with other recipes too about how with most recipes where you're making like a dough or batter as well, but particularly a dough, you're going to add your wet ingredients together first and then add your dry ingredients after, which is consistent with this one as well. And muffins are kind of weird because they're like not really a dough and they're not really a batter. They're kind of like somewhere in the in-between. But I think they're delicious. I think they're great. I don't fully understand what the difference is between some types of cakes and cupcakes and sometimes I cannot talk tonight. Some types of cakes and some types of muffins, but I think it comes down to the consistency a little bit. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Ooh, a little more, that's fine. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. We are going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Salt. I'm actually going to add a little more salt. Don't do this. I'm adding it because the butter that I use is unsalted, but you're only going to add 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And then I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, which is a lot of baking powder. We want that so that the muffins rise properly. Anytime that you're cooking with fruit, it's going to be very wet, which can really inhibit how well it's cooking and how well it's rising. So that like extra kind of burst of baking powder in it will really help that rise get going. Will really help it to cook evenly as well as it's rising. So awesome. We're going to let that mix together a little better. And yeah, we're like 2/3 of the way done. Like you can see, this is a really quick recipe to put together. But awesome. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add milk and flour. Pardon me. I'm going to add milk and flour, and we're going to add those a little bit at a time, switching off. So we're going to add 2 cups of flour total, and we're going to add a half a cup of milk total. So we are going to add 1 cup of flour. So again, using a half a cup, so I'm going to do 2 scoops. We're going to add 1 cup of flour and mix that in. And the reason that we're alternating for this dough is pretty much the same reason that we have so much baking soda, because we don't want it to be like super beat together, just because it can sink very easily. We want a little bit of loose flour in it as well, and I will explain that more when we add the blueberries. Alright, so I'm going to add half my milk. I have a half a cup of milk. So I'm going to add about a 1/4 cup. That was pretty spot on. Not to toot my own horn, but like...
Toot toot!
Toot toot. Alright. Gonna let that mix in. With the muffins as well, you want to like just mix it until it's just combined. So kind of the same as when we made banana bread, that you want it to be just combined. And again, same reason as the banana bread actually as well, which is that the fruit can make it kind of a weird consistency, can make it harder to bake it all the way through if it's too mixed. So awesome, we're going to add another cup of flour. We're going to mix that in. I mentioned in the video where we made pizza that I have like certain recipes that I made a lot and then like lost and like couldn't figure out where I found them from, stuff like that. This is also one of those recipes that I could not find it for a very long time after I moved here from Massachusetts. I'm going to add the other half of my milk. I could not find it for a long time after I got out here, and then I actually found it in the screenshots on my phone from files from my old phone, like probably close to like 6 years ago now, and looked up the ingredients and the measurements in reverse order and found out that it is from King Arthur flour, which we've talked about a little bit in the past, is a pretty good resource for recipes. That they're pretty solid, they're pretty standard. Awesome, so that's really coming together. Cool. Awesome, so the last thing we have to add is, of course, our blueberries. You can use fresh blueberries. I like to use frozen just because I think they bake in a little better. They don't wilt as much when they're baking, just because they're coming from a different temperature range. It's also just, it's cheaper, it's easier. So blueberries. We are going to add 2.5 cups total. You know, it really helps to open them if your hands are not wet from the moisture on the bag. Alright, yes, I opened those in one try. It was great. Awesome. So we're going to add 2.5 cups of blueberries total. You're going to start with a half a cup. So I'm just going to put that right in there. You're going to start with a half a cup, and you're actually going to mash those up a little bit. These are frozen, so they're not going to mash like super well, but that's okay. You don't really want like a jam type goo. You just want them like just a little beat up. You want them a little juicy, a little gooey. Yeah, you can use a spoon, you can use a fork. I'm just doing this right in the measuring cup, and I'm doing it with a measuring spoon that I already got dirty. And there's a very technical reason for that. And the technical reason is I technically hate doing dishes. So I am trying to make as few as possible. Yeah, awesome. So I'm not going to like beat them up or anything. I'm just going to kind of squish them just enough that they're kind of crushed. If y'all would be interested in learning how to make jam sometime, that's really fun too. I have not done that in a while. Like a while. Awesome. So yeah, you can see like they're pretty beat up. They're pretty mashed, but they're not like necessarily like one big goo. Like they're still individual berries. So I'm gonna dump those right in. Awesome. And then I'm gonna take the rest of my blueberries. So again, 2.5 cups. I can measure it out. Trust me, it's 2.5 cups. And take the rest of my blueberries and dump those in. If you're using frozen, you might have a little liquid in the bottom if you left them out on the counter while you were making Rice Krispie treats like I did and they melted a little bit. That's fine. It's just a little treat for later. Alright, so awesome. So we're going to mix this until it is just combined. So if you're doing this by hand, you want to like fold them in. I'm going to use a mixer, but yeah, because you don't want them like too beat up. But you can see like how beautiful and how purple it's getting too. So that's like perfectly fine. I'm gonna fold them in a little better by hand. Because I'm picky. Yeah, just getting some of that off the paddle. Yeah, so if you're doing it by hand, you want to do like that folding motion. So you're scooping it from the bottom and you're just kind of folding them in. And you can see it's a really beautiful purple color right now. Some of that is going to bake out. It might not all necessarily bake out. I've found that less of it bakes out when I use frozen blueberries. I'm sure there's a really cool scientific reason for that. I don't know what it is though. But yeah, awesome. So that is just fine. And I wouldn't mess around too much with the amount of blueberries in it. Just because, again, every time you're cooking with fruit adds wet. Wet changes how it bakes. Awesome. So, I'm going to very delicately just shove everything to the side. And we are going to get our muffins set up. My housemate chose these lumberjack muffin liners from all the other ones that I had. But we are going to do liners in each pan. If you don't have liners, you can use butter, you can use spray. I like them just because it's an opportunity to add a little flair, whatever you're baking. A little bit of a problem. Every time I go to like an art store, I come home with like 40 things of baking liners. It's not cute. And I should have said this much earlier, by the way, but this recipe makes 12 muffins. About. So I sell baked stuff sometimes, as well when people are dying. I sell baked stuff. And a lot of times when I am selling stuff, I know that this is 349 grams, the metal bowl itself. So I will do some math and figure out exactly how much mix is in there and then do them by weight so they're all the same size so I get the number that I want. I'm not going to be that intentional about it today. I'm going to use a 1/4 cup scoop. And I am just going to get it right in there. You know what? I'm going to grab that same spoon from earlier. I can find it. There we go. I'm going to grab that same spoon from earlier because this is kind of a sticky mixture. So yeah, and we're going to do a heaping 1/4 cup, which basically just means like that little bit of mound. We're not trying to be too exact about it. Awesome. And again, if you want to spray it, if you want to use butter instead, that is totally fine. I like muffin liners because, number one, it's easier to clean up my pans after. And as mentioned before, dishes, one of my least favorite chores. But I also like it just because it's a little flair, you know. Add a little art wherever you can when you're baking. I don't always make things that are super pretty, so I like the opportunity to kind of be a little visually fun with it. Man, that's such a mom thing to say. Visually fun muffins. But y'all know what I mean. And if you want to double this recipe and make like 24, be my guest. These do last pretty well. I haven't had them for a super long time before. Like, I haven't had them, like, sitting out for a super long time before because I always live with other people and they tend to go quickly. But I'm not sure exactly how long they would last out. But I've definitely had them, like, up to, like, a week before tops. Awesome, so we're gonna slide that to the side. Most muffin tins do have 12 compartments. I have two that have 6 because that is what they had at Walmart the day that I needed to get a muffin pan at the last minute. I actually have 4 that have 6, but that is another story for another time. Awesome. There's a lot of blueberry muffin recipes out there. Like a lot. I went down a rabbit hole when I was trying to find this one a while ago. That actually Sally, my housemate who was helping me film, was there for. Where, oh man, the full range of muffin recipes that you can find online, the full range of blueberry muffin recipes that you can find online is mind-blowing. And I'm sorry, Becky from Tulsa, I don't believe that your family's blueberry muffin recipe is the best blueberry muffins in the country, as your hyperbolic recipe title claims. Pretty big statement. But yeah, it is wild. But that being said, with that many ways to make one thing, there are gonna be like little tips and tricks that like every recipe uses differently. Like a lot of blueberry muffin recipes have a little bit of lemon extract in them or a little bit of lemon juice in them because it can bring the flavor of the blueberries out really nicely. This one doesn't, and I have not found that I miss it. If anything, I don't tend to like those. I don't know why, because I love lemons and I love like a little bit of acidity to things. I definitely love blueberry muffins, but I'm not crazy about like the way that it interacts. There's a lot that have like cinnamon in them too. Again, it's your prerogative, I guess. But I like this one. You can also you can play around with it. You can do like a little like lemon zest topping on them before you stick them in the oven. You can do a like cinnamon sugar crust on top. Sometimes I'll put a little extra sugar on top of these, especially like if I have like a fancy like coarse sugar. But I'm just gonna leave them as is today because they're really good on their own as well. Yeah, I'm just going back in with a little bit extra on some of my guys that are a little lower. So I think at the beginning I was like, oh, I hope I have enough mix, and then at the end I was like, I have enough mix. So just going back around. Yeah, again, with like certain muffin recipes, you're gonna want it to be low because they rise a lot. This one, you're gonna go pretty much right to the top. I've definitely like been skimpy with the mix before in different recipes and been really disappointed when they didn't get like a nice like dome to them, and that is on me. So trust your gut, trust the recipe. Awesome. All right, so 375 degrees. Our oven's been preheated for a while. I'm gonna stick these in for 30 minutes. And again, you can do like a sugar topping on top if you want. I'm not gonna. If I was going to, I would probably do like maybe like half of it, like an eighth of a cup total, and just sprinkle like a little bit on top of each one. But 375 degrees, 30 minutes. See you then. So our timer just went off. We're gonna pull out our muffins. Yeah, those look gorgeous. Man, the hardest thing about making muffins is getting it grip on the edge. Yeah.
Ooh.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, you can see how most of the purple baked out, but we do have a little bit of blue going through. They're still a little wet, but like we've talked about before, anytime they're in the pan, they're still baking. So we're just gonna not mess with them for a few minutes and let them kind of keep doing their thing. But yeah, those are quite beautiful. They definitely got a nice dome on them from all that baking powder. I am really pleased with those. But yeah, we're gonna let them sit a little longer, cool a little longer, and I will see you then. All right, the muffins have been cooling for a little bit. We're gonna grab one and break into it. There's their nice little muffin liners, our lumberjack muffins. Yeah, they're still a little warm, but that's okay. Yeah, awesome. So you can see how it baked through pretty nicely. Um, Nice and dry on the inside, which is great. We have those big blueberries, those big frozen blueberries rather, which are cooked all the way through now. They held their shape pretty nicely, which is great. And yeah, that's how you make blueberry muffins.